Okay, I want to talk about the book Do Ask, Do Tell When Liberty is Stressed, updates to Bill of Rights 2, essays on challenges to free speech and other liberties, published in 2002. I just want to go over some keyword concepts in this video. Here they are. The most important one's probably personal high agency, especially association, consensual intimacy between adults, freedom of expression, which sometimes includes lineage and family, and sometimes includes being alone to do your own thing. And sometimes it's predicated indirectly on the purity of others, and that can be problematic. Another concept is meritocracy. Then you have the concern over external threats, then inequities, and then risk sharing among individuals, which may be grouped together, but I prefer to think about them as individual by individual. And that includes conscription, like in military service. That includes some deprivation of liberty, like lockdowns during a pandemic. It might include responsibility you didn't choose, like filial responsibility for your aging parents or for raising siblings' children or something like that. All of that is kind of dependent on the individual self-ownership or personal autonomy. That's compared to identarianism, where you develop your sense of identity through belonging to a tribe or a family, and particularly on the left, a sense of identity through being a member of an oppressed group and this oppressor versus oppressed thing. I'm much more interested in the challenges to individual liberty looked at as an individual. Another concept is, of course, freedom of speech and freedom to defend yourself, the First and Second Amendments. Those are explicitly spelled out in the Constitution. The Second Amendment, of course, there's a nuance about whether it applies to militia or to the individual, and there was a case in the District of Columbia that settled that, like in 2008, I think. Freedom of speech has certain components in the First Amendment. What it doesn't necessarily include is freedom of reach, in other words, to self-broadcast, which is something that came up with the internet. The other concept is affiliation, which, if misused, can turn into narcissism. Affiliation I talk about in one of the chapters in the book in conjunction with the concept of polarity that Paul Rosenfels developed in the 1970s, and it leaves your biological gender alone, but says you can have feminine or masculine personalities and still be of your original gender. It's a very, very good thing. Affiliation, when it is not controlled and balanced by other dedications, can lead to something I call the Mousetrap problem, which I didn't define in the book, which I'll talk to later. The other thing about individual rights, and it's very important, is that there's a debate over how you achieve them and secure them. Is it by equal protection of the law as it applies to an individual, or sometimes does it apply preferentially to people in oppressed groups or marginalized groups, or should it be by due process of law? All of that mainly from the 14th Amendment. And that, of course, came into consideration during the Alito decision. And what I've said is that we should have some sort of public events to secure due process rights, and privacy rights especially. And that, of course, affects abortion, affects consensual sexual activity, marriages, and so forth. So that's I talked about that in the book 20 years ago, and now it's a hot topic.